and today I am interviewing Carl Newman, the BatBallet. He served as Michael Keaton's movement double in Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. Hey, Carl, how are you?
Hi Joe, I'm doing really well, thank you. It's lovely
Thank
to
you.
talk to you.
Really nice talking to you too, and I'm really glad that we were able to reschedule. I'm sorry about last time that it didn't work out. There was an emergency situation with my mother's car, and I had to go help her with something. But she's okay.
I'm
Everything's
so
all right.
sorry to hear. She's all good, is she?
Yes, she's fine. She is great. She's wonderful. So, how are things over there
Uh,
in the UK?
well, we are enjoying a rich vein of weather here.
Hmm.
It's lovely and warm, which I'm pleased to say. And I go to the coast on Thursday. One of my favourite places in the UK is Cornwall, and I was there last year. Absolutely beautiful place, and hopefully I've hit the weather right. But I'm the kind of guy that just makes the most of everything anyway, and you can move around from one side to the other, so the weather won't affect me. But of course, it's a bonus if it is nice weather.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, we're having nice, warm, bright, sunny weather here today over in the U.S. in Philadelphia. So, yeah, it's a really nice day, and it was a long winter. I cannot stand winter. I hope winter never comes back.
I know it can sort of drag on, can't it? I think we were okay this year. We didn't have one of those really sort of long-winded winters. Sometimes it can really drag on, can't it? But we just love to hit some nice weather, don't we? It puts the positivity and a smile on more people's faces, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, it does, because you know what? In a way, I kind of feel like, in the wintertime, you almost feel like the same way we did during the pandemic, COVID-19 when that was happening. So it was just we were all locked up in our houses, not able to do stuff. And when it's so cold outside, we still don't want to do anything.
That's right.
you
Yes,
know,
you just want to hunker down, don't you? Just wrap up and stay in the warm and get the hot drinks and things going, don't you?
yeah, just hibernate until spring's here.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's talk about how you got started. I know that you are a professional ballet dancer, and how did you start in ballet? When did that start for you?
Yeah, I mean that sort of tag it's sort of true, but I'm actually very much a jazz dancer, or certainly more so. I'm not doing quite so much dancing these days. I certainly could still do stuff, but the ballet was very much part of my training anyway. Classical and contemporary ballet, and I was just a guy that loved sport, very much an all rounder. I used to love doing athletics, bit of football, but mostly rugby and cricket. And my late father was a great inspiration to me because he got into that PC, that physical culture, as it was called, the sort of the bodybuilding, the weight training. And he really inspired me to do a lot of weights and things. But I I was fortunate, my parents were from that great era, sort of the 50s was their time, and I used to watch a lot of the great Hollywood movies with them, and of course, Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Sammy Davis Jr., the Nicholas brothers, Danny Kaye, all those, Donald O'Connor, all those great people. And alongside those guys, I was very much in, and always have been, into my music. So Michael Jackson, the Jacksons were a great influence, especially Michael.
Hmm.
And I used to love dancing socially. So clubs were great back in the day, because people really went for the music and they could dance. And I love to show off, quite honestly. I love to get on the dance floor. And if it was a really sort of rhythmic track, then I'd really get down to it. And I used to follow a lot of the fashions, the trends, so all the different styles of dance that were coming in, and then when locking and body popping, robotics, all these different things that came in. But I was doing it sort of socially, and then you know, I sort of then started. Oh, that's right. I started to play drums for a dancing school because that was another thing
Oh.
I was doing. I started off being very much a drummer as well, and they saw me dancing and they said, "Look, you should do more stuff." So I went to them, and they were sort of very much one of the, if not the best school in Leicestershire. And I was there. I was doing jazz and some tap, and then I saw another guy, and he said, "Look, you should come where I go to. They do ballet." And my that sort of time, ballet wasn't so well known for guys. Of course, there was the great ballet dancers like Rudolph, and then Mikhail Baryshnikov was one of my heroes. But I just loved dancing, and it was one of the best things there because it was so brilliant. And I started off doing contemporary and then some classical with another teacher. And a lot of my sort of friends were going off then, after a year or so, going off to audition at the big schools in London, whether they wanted to go into contemporary or jazz, whatever it might be. And then I thought, you know what, this is what I want to do. So I spoke to my teacher there, and then he said, "Well, look, I can only help you with sort of classical because he went to the Ballet Rambert, which is a very famous dance school here.
Hmm.
But he said, if you love jazz, then chase your dreams and go down that route." And so that's what I did. I then went off to audition for a full-time college, got in, and then went from there.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, do you still play instruments to this day? What was the instrument that you played? I'm sorry?
It's okay, drums. So I do still tap. I've still got my kit, which is a Gretsch kit, which is a very known kit. I know over there, and my heroes, Vinnie Colaiuta and people like that, play that brand. Yamaha is also very popular. I've managed to play quite a few kits in my time, in different bands and for different gigs and engagements. But I'm not playing quite so much now. I should really get that drum kit out again because I'm always listening and hooking into the rhythms. And I think it's interesting that drumming and dance have quite a sort of a connection anyway, as you would imagine, with that rhythm. And there's been some great drummers that have also uh, been great tap dancers, like Buddy Rich. He was a great tap dancer. Steve Gadd, great tap dancer. Louis Bellson, great. These are all great American jazz drummers that I've always loved listening to and watching, and I've seen them all in actual fact. I've alongside dance, music has been so important to me, and I think you should always try and go and see your heroes and support all of those passions that you have. Uh, And so, music, I will go and see bands, and especially, want to hear the drummer. So that's another great thing. But yes, I should really get them back out again because I'm always tapping my hands and you know having that sort of feeling always.
Yeah, I remember that. That's really great. Yeah, when I was a kid, back when I was in grade school, the only time I had ever tried to play an instrument was I tried to play the violins. I wanted to learn how to play the violin because I saw this really great movie. I think it was called Music from the Heart. It was a Wes Craven film,
Oh
and
yes, yeah, Wes Craven, yeah.
yeah, and it was a fan. I thought it was a really fantastic movie with Meryl Streep, and so I kind of was intrigued by the idea of violin, but it was a lot more harder than I thought it was, and it was so embarrassing every time I tried to practice when I was in a group with so many people that had a long history of experience than I did. And one time, my teacher gave me a private session where I can come in, and he can teach me, in private, so I wouldn't be so like intimidated by everybody else around me. But that didn't go well because when I was playing the violin, he had long hair, a ponytail, and I think you
Yes.
know where I'm going with this. I was playing the violin, and the stick got stuck in his hair, and oh, it was so embarrassing. Oh my god.
But
Anyway, yeah.
it's a great instrument. I mean, it was again. I used to be very interested in that because it went very much down the electric route, didn't it? You know, and
Mhm.
Jean-Luc Ponty. If you ever get to hear him, he's a great violinist, virtuoso, and I was very very fortunate that I listen to a lot of the instruments. I think it's I don't limit myself with that, and also with music. I don't, certainly don't listen to something that's a racket, but I listen to something that's got something to say, and it can be many different genres. I love classical, I love jazz, R&B, funk, reggae, soul, so many different genres, and I think having that just opens you up so much more anyway, and certainly being if you're a drummer, you're open to all these different styles and genres, and it makes it a much more pleasurable experience
Oh, absolutely.
and life for you. It's the same with dance. I mean, certainly when I was doing so much, um, I'd get asked to do all kinds of things. Whether it be ballroom type, whatever. And you could always go with that, go with the flow, and if it was that, you just go for it. Wouldn't limit yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, back in high school, I did theater. I love acting. I always have. And back when I was in high school, I joined the music theater, and
Yes.
you know, it was a really great experience. And but it was very intimidating because I couldn't sing. I couldn't sing. I have a very deep toned voice, so I can only be a bass really. And when
That's a good sound.
Yeah, but it's obviously not like the main voice that you'd pick to be the lead singer of something. Usually it's a
Like
soprano
a
type
tenor
voice.
or tenor or
Yeah. And
baritone. I mean, I was sort of baritone tenor with my voice.
yeah, it took the whole my whole entire time in high school before I actually was able to be good enough to actually get a part. For so many years I was surrounded by so many amazing talented people that were in that theater department in my high school, and they have years of experience, and they sing amazing. And I remember when I'm auditioning, I used to hold the paper of the song in my hand, and my hand would start to shake, and the paper would be in my hand, and I'd be like shivering because I'd be so scared out of my wits because I'm on stage in front of everybody, and I have no singing experience at all at that time.
Well, it's hard, isn't it? And I think nerves can be debilitating, as you've sort of demonstrated there. And it's getting control of your nerves. You want to have that kind of adrenaline. You want to be keyed
Mhm.
for what you're doing. But I mean, I've sung, probably heard of Sir Cameron McIntosh, who produced a lot of the massive musicals all around the world. I sang in front of him. I mean, there was, the big people here were Andrew Lloyd Webber and Sir Cameron McIntosh. I went up because I was going up for some musicals as well. Originally, I didn't want to go down so much that route because I love dipping in and out of various contracts. But then I got very, very close to being the drumming cricket for the Buddy Holly story because that really suited me, playing drums and acting in that. But I felt very happy that I got so close to getting it. And then I sang for Cameron McIntosh. But it is hard sometimes, breaking into that scene. And then I did have, a lot of the fans won't know this, but I was seeing a lady who was recommended to me by a great American music producer friend of mine, and I went with her, Pepe Lima, and she taught one of the Spice Girls. In fact, she was responsible for getting the Spice Girls together in many ways, along with the others. But she was fantastic to go and have lessons with. And I think the plan was at that time was to try and get some kind of record contract because we were perhaps even thinking of incorporating drums somehow with with the vocals. But I did it for some time and I absolutely loved it. And then I got down another sort of track, which as I disappeared over to Australia for 2.5 years and did some work over there. But all of these things have just been great experiences for me. To be, because I think you have to be amongst the top people, in order to flourish even more. I think that's why I loved, working with Jack Nicholson and Michael, which I know we'll get to later. But I think you want to surround yourself with the best talents, whether it's on the crew side, the director, the lighting, everything else, or if you're in a band with the best musicians. It always just brings on your level, your capabilities even more, and it stretches you, pushes you. And so I've been very, very fortunate that I have been around a lot of that in my life, and a lot of it is also timing, as we know. That you need those breaks along the way, and I've had some fantastic breaks. I'll never deny that. But then I've had some really, really extremely close calls with other massive jobs, and I think if you can get those as well, it pushes you even further up the ladder and in front of more and more people. But certainly, I feel very fulfilled and happy with the things I've done, and I've also been the kind of guy that alongside that, it's important to also enjoy life. Because I think
Absolutely.
sometimes those fame things, or there's those people that just thrive on the money and the ego they can do and all of that. But for me, I love to be real and down to earth, and I love nature, and I love being around all of that. The world around us, the beautiful animals and flora, fauna. That's as important to me as you know getting a big gig. You know what I mean? It's all part of life's rich tapestry. To avoid being cliched.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and also for people that are watching, if you have any questions for Carl about working on Batman or any of his history, working with jazz or any of that stuff, please feel free to submit your questions, and we will get to them as soon as I ask a couple questions. Um, so, what is your history with Batman? How did you grow up with Batman as a kid? Were you a fan of his?
Yeah, I mean, I was very young at the time the '66 series came out with Adam West and Burt Ward, but when it had its rerun and I was at that sort of age, then I loved it. I know it's camp and kitsch and it's all those things, but I think you always look at things in their time, and we never took things too serious then. There was this kind of humor and this kind of way that was going on, and it was just great fun. It was very theatrical, over the top, but they were great actors as well. I mean, the likes of Burgess Meredith and
Mhm.
Cesar Romero, etc. Really great actors, and I loved it then on the reruns. But I also loved things like the Incredible Hulk and the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman. I grew up with all those kind of things. I had my
Mhm.
Action Man as well as a youngster, and I was
Wonder
very
Woman.
physical. Yeah, well, I did like Wonder Woman. I mean, who doesn't like a bit of gloss,
Yeah.
in front of them? And she's certainly very beautiful. But and Charlie's Angels, Jacqueline Smith was my favourite, I think there. But yeah, all of that was really just so lovely, wasn't it? Very gentle, and you could sort of lose yourself in that. And I loved a bit of play acting as well when I was younger. I got involved with various things,
Hmm.
so it was all hand in hand, really, if you like, with that. But yeah, with the Batman, so that was my first kind of sort of experience with all that, and it was wonderful.
That's great. That's amazing. So, how did Tim Burton end up finding you?
Well, this is the great thing. I mean, it was. it was perfect timing again, in the sense that, you know, I've gleaned a lot more by watching this recent series. I know it was filmed last year. This Icons Unearthed, this Batman series, but it was just very, very fortunate that they came over to England, and especially Pinewood Studios, which has a fantastic reputation, and they could actually build there. They have the space to do it. So they did all this, and I think everything was going to plan, but then Tim still felt that there was something missing, because they'd got Michael and they'd got the first stunt guy, Sean, and then I was with this very established dance agency in London, and they called me and said, "Look, they're looking for someone to really help on this new Batman movie." So I got the call. I went to Pinewood and had a meeting with the first assistant director then, and then it progressed from there, that I had a call back later on and had the costume fitting. So it was important that I, looked right in the costume, saw everybody there. But that was through Tim's, sort of request, because I think he knew that the way they would make this work was if they could get a professional dancer in. I mean, you're not talking about someone dancing in the suit, but someone who knows how to move in a suit, and can make it very fluid and elegant. Because as we know, and when people even try the suit on themselves, or have been to see it or know more about it, they realize what that first iteration was like, that 89 suit. And it was, in many ways, to a lot of other people, very restrictive, very cumbersome. But the dancer could make it work. And I think I prided myself on being more than a dancer. I was more of an athlete as well, because I'd done a lot of running and jumping. They were my sort of specialities. And so when I finally got to see Tim, when I'd had the costume fitting, then he asked me to do stuff. And then he was more than happy with what I was doing, because on your very first outing, you are a little bit limited um, with the set. But then when you get into situations where you've got the buildings and the interiors, and then props, or like jumping into the Batmobile, anything else like that, working with stuff, with the Kirby wires, etc., then you could bring even more of your skill set into it then. And as I say, that was very much my thing, where I'd worn so many costumes on loads of different jobs, and to get this costume was the ultimate.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, one of the things that every actor that's played Batman has in common, with the exception, of course, of Adam West, um, they always talk about the hardest thing about shooting a Batman movie is working in the suit. He says the suit's very restrained and very hard to move in. And I don't know. I don't think Adam West ever complained about it, but I know Burt Ward did at the time. I think he did gave a couple interviews where, of course, back when he was filming the '60s show, they never used his stunt double. They always had to use Burt because of his stunt double didn't look like him.
No, and
So,
and he was good as well, wasn't he, Bird? I mean,
mhm.
I've seen footage of him doing. I think it was probably his screen test, where he was doing forward rolls and different things, and he
Very
looked
talented.
nice and nimble, and athletic with what he was doing. And they were the kind of things that I was doing, at college, and wherever. I was also a massive Bruce Lee fan. Having sort of like control in your body as well. And I had a time of doing Shotokan karate as well, and I love doing that. And I think dancers, they've got that ability to be able to move the legs, very supple and things like that. So yeah, I think with me with the costume, my philosophy, my sort of mission was to just make it though, so it looked like it was made of silk, rather than latex, whatever. I just didn't want it to limit me in any sense, and so I would always do whatever I could, and I would limber up before scenes, and it just felt natural to me because I was in it so much anyway. It's only by the end of the shoot, when you wrap, that your body starts to say, "All right, I've kind of had enough now." But prior to that, I mean, I just, you just suffer for your art. You just go through everything to make it that sacrifice. I mean, for me, I just was thrilled beyond belief to be at Pinewood for the amount of time and to work on that, which we know will always be the ultimate Batman movie, whatever comes after it or has come after it.
Hmm.
That to me is still the number one that set the precedent for all the others that followed. But I just loved having that suit, and I wanted more and more. That was the reality.
Absolutely. What would you say was more difficult, putting the suit on or moving in it?
Well, I was fortunate, putting it on because I had the Wranglers there, and we had it down to a fine art. It was like a finely tuned machine, if you like, where you had all the undergarments that were going on. Because bearing in mind as well, we filmed throughout the winter in England, and whilst we don't have the kind of winters that you get in maybe the States and Canada, I think what we get is we get these very damp cold conditions. So it seems to be, without being a wimp, which I'm not. I mean, it seems to penetrate more that kind of climate, and not like a dry cold, if you know what I mean. But we filmed throughout that winter, and it was incredibly cold. But I got the help with all of that, getting the suit on and stuff. I don't really see that there was any issue really. I think what tends to happen is though when you're taking the cowl on and off a massive amount of times, then you are getting some kind of friction over the ears, and you start to get some of these kind of friction burns or dry skin. But as I say, yeah, I would get home, because the filming was right through the night into the early hours of the morning. I'd get home, and I probably never really even slept very much because by the time I got home, the people I was living with that were attending college, they would go off. And then the phone would ring from the agents or whatever, but you just thrived on it. I certainly did anyway, so nothing was any trouble.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So, how did you get the name the Bat Ballet?
Yeah, well, this came from Jack, and as you probably know, he went with John Peters to see The Phantom of the Opera, the musical that was on in the West End, and that's where they kind of got the idea for the finale scene in the cathedral. But because I was required, I'd met Jack, quite some time ago, on the shoot, but I suppose as they got to know me more, and certainly in that bell tower, I was in various parts of that, so I interchanged with Michael out of the Batwing crash and pushing the cathedral doors open, and then coming or lowering that, and then moving all throughout the bell tower, and then with Lawrence when he tries to get me and all that kind of stuff. But then Tim asked me to do that sort of stalking element when the Joker is dancing with Vicky Vale, and I had to sort of come in and out of various parts. And when you see it in the film, yeah, you see those moments, but in actual fact, there was kind of more moments, as there always are in a shoot when you're filming things, and it's how it's edited then. But I think I spent a lot of time with Jack in between takes, and we would talk and have a drink, and Tim was there as well, and then it just came from him that I heard. He said that about me, and he signed my photograph, BatBallet, but he called it BatBallet, but he called me a ballet bat, so that's where that all came from. And then Michael started using that, and he wrote that on my photograph as well. But I mean, someone like Jack, who I think is one of the greatest actors that's ever lived,
Hmm.
it is just phenomenal to have a pet name, a nickname from him, and such a great man as well, so kind. The fact he bought everyone the crew jackets, the cast and crew, the crew jackets. But that was wonderful that he gave me that name.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, I really wish Jack had gotten another opportunity to play the Joker because he had the. I think still to this day he had the best, the perfect facial structure for the character. I mean, like when you look at this card, for example, like it is Jack, and like
It is.
it's amazing. And of course, he's just a wonderful actor. And I just really, what they're doing now with the Batman movies, making this whole idea about a multiverse and being able to bring all the Batman actors from the past back in some way. Like, I just wish
Yes.
that I know Jack's obviously retired now, but I just really wish that they would offer him maybe a part of like Joker, maybe sitting in a jail cell. I know at the end of the movie he died, but of course in the comic book uni-
Yes.
but of course in the comic book universe, there's always a way to bring these characters back to life. And
Yeah, well, we saw that. We did see that in the Flash, to some degree, didn't we? That
yes.
they were there, but yeah, it would be very interesting. I mean, it's a shame, isn't it, that with Jack, but I think he chose to retire, didn't he? But I
Hmm.
think it's a real shame that we haven't had him back prior, because he was just so brilliant, and all the different iterations of the Joker, with Heath, etc. Wacky. But I just think that with Jack, he was just the perfect choice, wasn't he? Really,
Hmm.
it's just mind blowing how good he was. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Like I said, I really do hope. I'm still holding on to the possibility that he could come back. Of course, Robert Wall. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Wall, Robert Wall, who played Knox in Batman. He got to recently come back as Knox in a cameo during the Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW. Like, did you watch Supergirl or Batwoman or any of those shows?
I didn't, to be honest. No, I mean I think Robert's great, isn't he?
Hmm.
And he's had quite a bit of work, hasn't he? I know he's been doing the narrating on this Icon on Earth series as well, so that was very good for him. But no, I've not managed to see those.
Oh yeah, it was a really great big event that they did to bring a lot of the actors who had played these characters in the past who are now on television shows and were able to return. Like they got Brendan Routh who played Superman in Superman Returns to come back as Superman in a couple episodes, and they got Tom Welling from Smallville. But what was great about Robert's cameo was that. They had him holding a newspaper up while he was sitting on a bench in Gotham City, and he puts it down, and the bat signals right behind him, and he delivers a line saying,
That's
I
amazing.
hope you're watching, big guy." And I'll have to send that to you.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that. I mean, that's incredible, really, with the bat signal, which of course I did that scene,
Oh yeah, and I can't wait to
which,
talk. I can't
which
wait to
was
talk about
amazing,
that.
which was amazing to do that, and I mean, there are many people that say that's the best superhero ending.
Mhm.
Certainly the best Batman ending. Which is incredible for people to say that. But I mean, it just felt so incredible to be doing it. And we'll talk about that whenever.
Yeah, and Danny Elfman, his music score is just unbelievable. They kept using it in so many iterations of Batman. Like they used it in the animated series of the '90s, and they used it again in Justice League when the first cut of Justice League was released in theaters. Um, it was so great to hear that music again, and I just obviously Hans Zimmer, wonderful composer. His music's great too, and um, Elliot. I'm sorry, I can't really think of his name. Who did the Schumacher movie, Joel Schumacher Batman films? Elliot
Yes.
Gothaniel, is
Is
that
it
his name?
called? Yeah,
What?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. His
Just
music was
yeah,
fantastic. I love his
yeah.
music, but just that closing of the movie, like when the camera goes up the buildings and you just hear the music build and build and build, and then boom, there you are next to the bat signal. It was just, oh my god! I must have on my VHS tape as a kid. Stop, rewind, play again. Stop, rewind, play again. Like numerous times. I love that ending.
Well, I think they just got, you know, like you've said that we love all the other composers and people, don't we? But I think everything was just so perfect with Batman '89. It seemed to be that all the great elements came together, even though there was, if you like, some friction about using the Prince songs as well. I think it complements everything. The fact that Danny's got the overall score, and then you've got these songs interspersed from Prince. But I think, yeah, you quite rightly said it is just so beautiful, so perfect. And then when you get the opportunity to go and see Batman live with the live orchestra, it just takes it to a whole different level. It's just incredible to be there, and all your senses are heightened. You know, you're getting the dialogue. Movies. I think for me, and I'm not just saying it because I was fortunate to do that, but I would always say it anyway. I mean, I went to see Full Metal Jacket that Anton did as well, and what he did on that was just incredible. So, even if I hadn't have worked on Batman, I would still have always rated Anton's design as being the actual top of the bar, and then the other guys like Bo Welch have got a different style, and they've suited Tim's other movies. But I think in terms of Batman, for me, Anton is the one. He's just, it's like you can have people, it's like drumming, let's say. You can have all these great drummers, but then you've got someone like Vinnie Colaiuta, who all the drummers look up to him because he's like an alien. I mean, he's just someone that can play anything. And I think
Mhm.
Anton's just got that genius quality that sets him apart from anyone else. So that's my own take on it, anyway.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. How was Kim Basinger to work with?
Yeah, she was lovely. She really was. I think initially Kim didn't know what I was doing right from the off because it was quite secretive at Pinewood. Michael had got, Sean in initially, and then he knew I was in, but they were keeping things quite sort of hushed down. And then when Kim finally knew what I was doing, she was so lovely. She was so friendly, and we had a really good time together, really good laugh. because I was very close to her. I mean, I was right in the Batmobile with her, when it pulls into the Bat cave, and we did some close work in that sense together. But she was always so friendly, so helpful. So I love that experience of working with her because again, I've always admired these actresses, and especially not only they are beautiful, but like Michelle, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, she's a phenomenal actress, isn't she? So I think Kim is excellent as well, and I think really, it was very sad about Sean Young, but personally, I think Kim. It's almost like it was meant to be, wasn't it? That Kim played Vicky, and then Michelle over Annette Bening. Who's also a fabulous actress, but I think Michelle just suits it so much more with her feline features.
Hmm.
I just think it was meant to be. It's one of those, isn't it? That as things didn't work out for the originals, these others were the ones that were even better.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned Michelle Pfeiffer because I just met her stunt woman yesterday at this convention called Schiller Theater, which is in Parsippany, New Jersey. And
Oh,
her
fantastic!
name, yeah, Patricia Peters. And oh my God, she's very sweet, very lovely woman. And she is just incredibly talented. She did a lot of Michelle's stunts. She did, obviously Michelle did quite a bit of her own stunts because she's just an incredible talented actress. But yeah,
Yeah,
she did a lot of the flips, and she did. Michelle was very good with the whip. I don't know how often they
yeah.
use.
I think she surprised the guy that taught her how to do it, hadn't he? I mean, she really did. I mean, I just think again she's so versatile. When she was in the Fabulous Baker Boys and Frankie and Johnny, I mean, she did a great, extensive body of work, and her roles. I thought she was fantastic in Dangerous Liaison. With John Malkovich, she was so vulnerable. I thought I think that's what hurt me the most was, with Returns, I would have dearly loved to have worked with Michelle because she was someone I just greatly admired. I think she was one of my, favorite actresses, really. And for those reasons I've said, with the great versatility, she's so brilliant
Hmm.
and so beautiful in a lovely natural way. But yes, I think it would have been interesting for you to, like you say, to have spoken to her stunt double. Um, but Michelle certainly could do a lot herself, couldn't she?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I really there was recently a picture of Michelle that just recently surfaced, which was her at the TCM Film Festival, and they had her Catwoman costume there. I don't know if it was the one from the movie or not, but she took a picture right standing right next to it, and I'm
Yes,
just
that's
like
right.
oh my God, I just want them to bring her back as Catwoman again because what she did with her voice, her body language, it's just that she is just a amazing actress, and she seems like she's a really quick study. S-
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's just got it all, hasn't she? She's got the right figure, just got that ability, hasn't she, to just do anything really. And yeah, so I'm sad that I didn't get that opportunity, but at the end of the day, I did the '89, and that will always be my favourite. Not because
Yes.
as I say, I've been in it, but I think just because of all the elements that were there, and it was perfect that they came to England at Pinewood, and it helped the economy in the UK, which was a great thing. Gave a lot of people jobs, and it will always be there, won't it? Regardless of when people say, these things date, it still has a. What I miss is the humour in things now. I think life is all so serious and aggressive and all of that, and I loved how Jack, and there were even Michael. There was lines in there. There was some great humour, and it's also the fact that we did things for real then. Yes, I had the wires and that they could use those things, but the CGI, you've got to be able to control that and not let that get too much, because I think everything is in balance. And if it's all CGI, you might as well be immersed in a computer game, because I think it's this detachment. Then you don't have that suspension of disbelief, do you? When it's all just you know flowing through your eyes, you can just switch off then and think, hang on a minute. Whereas if you can just balance it, you use a bit of the physical still, but we realise that it saves money, don't we? That's the problem now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's funny you mentioned the CGI because it's unbelievable because we were lucky to get a behind the scenes photo of it. But your first scene of the movie was obviously cut, and they replaced it with CGI or animation. I don't know if it was CGI or animation at that time. A lot of people have grown pretty fond of the way it is in the movie because a lot of people just say, "Hey, Kevin Conroy as the animated Batman has a cameo in the movie." But obviously, the way the picture looked, it looked like it would have been a really cool shot of you kneeling down, which looks like you're on top of the cathedral, where you do end up
Yeah.
fighting the Joker. And
Well, I just think, yeah,
yeah,
I
so,
just think the whole idea was brilliant, because you know it's making that shape. People don't fully understand what that position was like. That they just probably thought, well, you were just crouched down, Carl. But the reality was, it was very much like a yoga position, really, um, because you've got that costume you're fighting against that costume, that because the cowl is glued on to the cape, so everything is pulling you down, with gravity. But I was resisting against that, but it's creating this beautiful silhouette, and then being able to isolate your body so that you can move your neck and your shoulder and part of your back, rather than just rotating the whole thing, because that looks too wooden. And I think I was so proud of that, because I am a masochist in the sense I will go through the pain barrier, and I will just give everything for those shots and that sequence, whatever. And so it was absolutely killing me in the pain, because it was the knee. There's a lot of pressure on one of the knees, but the conviction, that's how I am, that you just give everything. And when I was told by Annie Crawford in Head of Wardrobe that, oh God, we've just seen it in rushes and it looks absolutely brilliant, and then you find out, you go to the screening and you think, why in the hell have they put that in there? It's just so bad. And there's all these, debates. Oh, well, it would have, given away the reveal in the cathedral. But I don't think so. I think, why not start in the cathedral and then finish in the cathedral, and just have that beautiful hint of the gargoyles. You've got the real gargoyles, and then you've got this. Is that a gargoyle or is that Batman? And then the fact it moves, then that is Batman. And I just think it was a travesty in my mind that they didn't use it, because it looks so beautiful in that still.
absolutely,
So you can imagine if you'd have seen that with me moving those, because anything on film is just magnified so much more anyway, and those minimal movements would have just translated so well to the audience. And you know I just gave so much for that, but that's the sad thing. I hope we will see it at some stage.
yeah, me too, me too. And I just noticed the artwork behind you. That actually is artwork of that scene, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's this is the beautiful thing about the fan community are just so incredible. As I've said, they're like family to me. And you, these artists like Cole Watkins, he's done that. There's various interpretations that I've been fortunate to be in, and that's one where it's obviously I'm standing sort of upright, or got one foot up. But it's lovely to see all these interpretations, and then they're transgressed into other movies and things. But that was the first one with me doing that, and I just think it was so beautiful. And I hope, to say, that one day we will get to witness
Fingers crossed. Hopefully, it happens.
it.
I hope it does too. That movie, yeah, there was quite a bit of some photos that were leaked that looked like they would have been some amazing scenes that ended up getting cut. I don't know why, but what can you tell us about that scene exactly? When where were the cameras pointing at? Were they behind you or were they in front of you?
Yeah, I think they were very much in front of me from what I can remember, and as we know, the lighting was just so phenomenal, and very dark, very gothic, and also the atmosphere of, if you've got some smoke, some dry ice there. Um,
Oh,
Oops, sorry.
it's
Um,
okay.
um, that I could really immerse myself in all of these scenes, especially anything where you've got some bit of dry ice and stuff going on. And yeah, I can't remember exactly where. I think there was just the main one, as I say, that was at the front. But the idea, as you probably know in the movie, that was they're just going to pan up the cathedral and then get to this point. But I think the fact it just probably drifted along on a track. Um, but everybody just seemed so happy with what was going on, and it certainly took a long time to achieve it, in the sense of you know the setup that goes on anyway. Everything has to be perfect. Um, but yeah, I don't know whether there was any. I mean, I did do a test with the Batarang as well, which was another. I don't know whether that was necessarily a deleted scene, but they used me very much for testing out this gadget that they'd got, this mechanized system that they'd got, where the Batarang just came along the utility belt, and then I just sort of grabbed it, unfolded it, and then threw it. But yeah, I think the only main one that I lost was very much that beginning beginning shot. Yeah, there it is. Look.
Yeah,
So I'm very grateful that I didn't get more scenes cut, which would have been awful, wouldn't it? But I think what was happening for me was that Tim was calling me back in quite a lot, but then I think because of the politics on the movie, which you've got your stunt side and everything else, and I never had any friction with anybody on the set, but I think you always respected that, well, we've got to give the stunt guy, Sean was the main one, we've got to give him his work. And then, you know, there was some shots, I think people have said, well, we wish you could have done that rather than Michael. But the thing is that it needed to be balanced to give Michael, because he's fantastic in all the dialogue and the close-ups, as we know. But I can just do that fluid thing. That's my forte, with running and stuff like that. But I think it just had to be that they say, right, Carl, you have to hold back, and let Michael do that, or we'll balance it out. But certainly for what I did in the movie, I think there's an awful lot where I'm very much kind of embedded in the movie. There's so much of me throughout in various sections, so I should never feel hard done to. And the fact I'm the only double that did all that publicity as well, and worked with all these different photographers, and I think there was very good reason behind that, is because that without taking anything away from Sean or Dave, you know with the dance element and the way I could hold and look in that suit and move in that suit in the fluid element, they just wanted to see how a dancer could look in these shots. And then, it was me and no one else that worked with Ho Brits. I mean, of course, we knew the principals were working with her, but I was the only one chosen to work with her Brits. So again, I can come away from that movie and say, well, I not only did all these shots and sequences, but I did all this photographic work as well. And Murray Close and all these great people, David Gamble, Keaton, sure, that it's just fabulous to have that opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So back to that scene real quick. Do you know how you would have exited the scene? Like, did was it did they film you jumping off the roof, or would you have just exited like through the cathedral?
No, it was only just for that moment. Was this is the beginning one? Is it, Joe? We're talking about now.
Yeah, the
Is it? Is that
beginning.
what
Yeah.
you? Yeah, the beginning. No, they only ever wanted it to be that the camera would come across and it would see the first gargoyle. I was in the middle and it would just see me moving, and then it would just drift by the next gargoyle, let's say, and that would be it. There was no need to do an exit because the whole idea was to just give that hint of oh, this gargoyle's moved. So that's enough to whet the appetite for the audience. I think
Oh,
you can
so they,
over egg things. If you over egg things, it spoils it. Just that nice hint of wow, that gargoyle has moved, and oh, you focus a bit more on the ears or whatever else, and then that just sets the scene.
oh, got it. So they made it look like that you were one of the gargoyles, but then you moved, and then that's when we all get the idea.
Yeah,
Oh, that's Batman.
yeah, that's it. That was the whole premise of that. That was the whole idea, and that was the brilliance of that. And I think when I look at how they've done things, I think it's just that fantastic balance, isn't it?
Yeah, that would have been a really great shot if they had kept that in. Yeah, I wonder what the situation was. I don't know if maybe I mean, obviously they could have made it work with editing, but maybe Danny Elfman's music for that scene probably just it was too long or something, and they had to make sure the flow of the music stayed in the shot or something. I know there's a way to make it work. I'm just guessing, but that's just a thought. But
Yeah, we'll never really know because I mean I just think and I'm not just saying it, but I think it really works, and especially when you've got people from costume that they're going to the dailies, they're going to the rushes pretty much all the time because they're working with the actors and they're working with everybody on the movie, so they're going to see these sequences because it helps their continuity and everything else. So if they're going to see something and they say it's brilliant,
mhm.
and that you get the feedback, I think Tim also was blown away by it from what I can remember because he was a perfectionist. I mean, he knew what he wanted, and he was saying stuff to me, and he was so happy with what we did. So it's a strange reason why I don't think it's a music thing, a Danny Elfman thing. I don't know what it was, but they chose to do that. Um, Whether something got damaged to the film, I don't know, but we'll never really know um, the reason behind that unless we pin Tim down and say. Um, so yeah, it's just a real shame that it never stayed in because it was far better than what they showed. I think that was a boo boo to put that in because it stuck out like a sore thumb. That
Yeah.
early CGI animation, whatever you want to call it, but it looks so wrong. And I remember when I went with my girlfriend at that time, and I met on the movie, and she was fantastic talent. Sadly no longer with us, but she was a designer. She'd worked on a lot of great films. And she even said herself, "God, that looks terrible. You know, why have they done that?" And I was like, "Well, I really don't know, but there we are. It's done."
Yeah, I don't know if they ever mentioned that in the documentary Shadow of the Bat, which is on the bonus features of the Blu-ray of Batman 89.
Oh, sorry,
But oh, I fell again. uh, no,
sorry
it's
about
okay.
that.
But yeah, I have to I have to watch that documentary again to see if they mention it because
Hmm.
yeah, because you could definitely tell that's a cartoon. It's very easy to tell it's a cartoon. So
Yeah, yeah,
but, you know, again, people have fun with it now because of Kevin Conroy's Batman. Everybody just assumes they gave him a cameo in the movie or something. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So, do you recall any other scenes that you did that got cut from the film?
No, no, nothing else I did got cut. You know, as I say, I've just did that test for the Batarang, but no, nothing else I did got cut. Um, you know, I'm very, very happy with what I've done in the film because, you know, I've got some of the most iconic scenes as we know in the movie. I mean, I've got that iconic opening scene,
Hmm.
the landing on the rooftop, and then the takeoff. I mean, I think, you know, I'm very, very proud of the jump in the Batmobile because I think, you know, that's a real stand up movement to achieve that because, you know, getting into the Batmobile even normally with full regalia on is as you can imagine is tricky, but then to actually propel yourself into it as I did, and the whole idea of when you're doing things like in dance is you don't make things look difficult, uh, labor, you know, laborsome. You make it so it's just for the audience watching. Wow, he got in there like it was just greased, you know, it just slipped in there, shoehorned in there, and that was the whole idea was to make things so fluid, so easy, and that again could give me that opportunity to say, well, look, I can make this work because, you know, I got such, not blowing my own trumpet, I got incredibly strong abdominals, and I used to model, you know, I used to love watching Bruce Lee, and I used to love it when he'd lower himself or hire himself on the rope, and he'd have his legs, you know, out straight. Now, I used to do a lot of those things when I was younger. I used to go in the swimming baths and pull my legs out, and it's like quite gymnastic and hold my legs off the floor. But you know, you use that core strength as well to sort of whip your legs round, and then you know you're thinking of right, how can I get the cape out of the way? How can I propel myself into the Batmobile? But you know, that's the kind of person I was, and I'd think it through in my head, and I'd practice it, and then when it came to sort of shoot it, and Tim was there, and you know, he loved it. He was really happy because I just flew into that Batmobile. There's the same approach on the Axis Chemical rooftop. You do things very methodical to work out what you're doing, and you know that was very dangerous. But I made it so that I would survive, not only survive, but make it look very fluid, very theatrical with the cape, and work out how many sort of paces, steps I could take before I could stop and look, and then you know take off again. So there's a lot of thought to do things very very you know properly, but also to execute them at the best possible way, so that it does you know blow people away or that inspires them. You know, because I know a lot of kids used to watch that and they'd get their own towel on or whatever it would be, and they'd mimic me on that rooftop. And these are shots that I'm incredibly proud of because they're not easy to pull off. You know, You don't just get that costume on and run and do that. It's the thought that goes into it, and having control of your
Of course,
limbs,
yeah.
and the coordination, and actually also, I have acted quite a lot. I mean, I have been with some great teachers, and dancers can act very well because if we look at history, I mean, you know, Catherine Hepburn, that there's some great people that can take the direction very well because dancers know how to work with. And even Christopher Walken was a dancer before, and he actually does his lines, like with counts. So there's a lot of the dancers are very efficient in that way. Um, but I think I actually immersed myself into the character and believed, the people, I was looking to see who was around and whatever it was, I'd get totally immersed into that because that translates through the body then. And acting's not just about dialogue. Acting is how your body is, how, you've got to have everything, you've got to have the package. And I mean, Michael is brilliant as we know, but it's having that whole thing. You can't just, and that's why Jack was so brilliant. I mean, look at the movements he did as the Joker. It's just staggering, isn't it? But
Yes,
it's
it is.
it's the whole thing. It's the whole package. So, that's the way I look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how about the scene, the first scene of the movie when we first see you come down into the smoke with the cape out like this, and you get lowered, and they lower you down in the smoke. How was that scene to shoot? I would imagine it would be slightly difficult considering the fact that you're wearing that mask and they're blowing smoke at you.
No, not really. I mean, it was my first time of using the wires, so I knew other dancers that were doing jobs, and maybe it was a bit sort of circus type of orientated or whatever it might be. But again, dancers are the best, some of the best candidates for those kind of things, or gymnasts. And I was really excited because it's almost like that Peter Pan thing as well,
Hmm.
isn't it? Where you can fly, and you've got the harness on, and you're all ready to go, and then you get sort of hoisted up really quite high, and then it's a case of the angle and getting the timing when the guys lower you into that frame, into that scene. But I just absolutely loved it because I mean, again, you're running on the excitement, the adrenaline.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
got the whole suit on, and then it made sense. So that's why I knew Tim knew I could do that right for him. It is because it's very dance orientated in the sense of lowering and softening through the knees like a plie in ballet. That you'd land and you wouldn't just land like a sack of potatoes or whatever, but um, you would come down very elegantly and then soft through the knees, and then with the timing, you could lower the wings. But it was done quite a few times, that particular, quite a lot of takes on that because of the fact of it's not just you. It's just getting that timing with the guys, and as I say, the angle and everything. But we got it, and the rest is sort of history in the sense of how well it worked. And I just loved it, and I think it was a unique opening to have that,
Yeah, very unique.
because
Yes.
that silhouette and the fact that you're seeing the guys there, and then there I am in the sort of the distance there, but you've got the smoke and that lovely wing shape. And then you can build from that. Then you see as well. That's where it became closer, where they look up, and then I get the cape out and then jump down. But
Is that you, by the way?
I
When
thought
the
it was clever.
when Batman puts the cape up and they look at you, is that you that we're watching and you jump down?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, because you hear that sort of crunching sound, and then they look up, and then I sort of open the cape out, and then I jump down. and then it's when Michael then does that sort of cape flap, just the last element, if you like, and yeah, I think it worked beautifully, really,
It
with
did.
the way they did that.
Oh yeah,
You
it
know,
absolutely
so
did.
I think I'll hold this now, shall I? Because it's yeah, it's going to get a bit bad if it keeps falling off.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Are you leaning that up against something? That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a nice angle so that you saw some of the pictures there, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I hope the audience, the fans, are not getting
Oh, we've seen it,
too.
and it looks. They look awesome. They look amazing. But yeah, what? How about the scene where Batman shoots his grappling gun up with Vicky Vale, and he goes flying up the rope? And was that you that did that stunt?
No, no. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I was watching. You know, I was around, and you know, it was fantastic to be around for a good many of the scenes or whatever, you know, and just even experience that atmosphere that was on set, you know, with the most incredible Gotham City that was created. And but no, those scenes were very much Michael.
Oh, that's good. That's
And yeah, no, it was. It was fantastic. I mean, I applaud the team as they are in a lot of the movies. I mean, the special effects that are created and all these gadgets and like we know with the Batmobile and the Batwing. I mean, they were truly incredible, weren't they?
yeah,
These
absolutely.
creations, and they took a lot of time to evolve to get right. But then you can totally understand because earlier sort of versions were not quite there, were they? So it still needed to be tweaked and streamlined or whatever. But um, you know, just being around, and I'd been at Pinewood a number of times before anyway, so there was always a buzz at those studios, and especially around the James Bond studios where we actually filmed as well, and I'd filmed in those studios before for some work. But there was such an incredible buzz at Pinewood and everything that they were doing there. It was just you can imagine. Um, Even when I wasn't perhaps required at that time, I used to be around watching, and I made a lot of friends and still am friends with the wardrobe people, and you know, I just hung around and just absorbed it all. I mean, I just wanted to be there all the time, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I saw that you had some. Did you get to keep a bat suit? Is that bat suit that you wore recently for? Uh,
No, no, that was one that was. I'd love to have had one of the bat suits. I think what saddens me is the fact that a lot of things got thrown away. Would you believe? And you know, I'm not a greedy type of person, and you know, when you do the job, you know, you don't. I mean, I should have even got an autograph from Tim, but you get caught up in the whole electricity of the movie, and you know, I think I left it very much towards the end when I asked Jack and Kim and Michael for autographs, and then John Evans, special effects guy, gave me one of the plates, the chest plates, and things like that, and I had other things given to me, but you never thought of asking for a cowl or a bat suit because you know that to me was not the kind of thing you felt you'd crossed the line if you were asking things like that because you thought I mean we all thought that we would be back very soon after, you know, maybe the next year or whatever, because they spent so much money on the set at Pinewood that we thought it was a formality that oh we'll be back again. Because I was talking with most of the people, I got on with everyone, all the crew, all the technical people, because I was around them and everybody, you know, Nick Dudman, you know, Bob. Graham, all of the people there,
Yeah.
Vin. Um, yeah, so it was just unbelievable when all those years sort of passed and it went then to Warner Brothers in America. But I understand more now, having watched that series, the Icon series. That people said to me, why didn't you get the call back for returns? Because Tim had really said such lovely things to me at the wrap party. But I think a lot of it comes down to what I've certainly gleaned is that Tim wanted to use a lot of lot of people in America, because he didn't quite have that um, ability in England, which I can understand because I think when it was filmed in England, it was just the law, with the job market that you had to use a lot of the British workforce, which you can understand, can't you? And thank God that happened because that's I wouldn't have done it otherwise. But you can understand that in America, you could have more control. You could say, well, look, I use a lot of the people there, and he would need people like Vin, and of course Bob. Anyway, we know did returns and stuff. So those kind of people would get the call back. But I think a bit of time had passed, and maybe Tim got caught up in all the other politics and things going on. I don't think it was sort of deliberate that he didn't asked me back. I think it was just one of those things, as I say, that
Politics.
yeah, politics, and I know that the reason Dave Lee got on it was because he was already there. He'd worked on Tango and Cash and things, and I also know that from one of the Wranglers that he was hanging around the set quite a lot. And then I think it was a case of then they just sort of let him in. So there's all these things that go on. But I know Tim said such lovely things to me, and he asked me if I'd worked in the States before. So there was definitely the interest there. But as we know, it's just down to timing again.
Yeah,
When
I think Batman Returns for the most part was shot on a soundstage. I don't even think he
yeah.
even shot it on a setting outside, did he?
No, not as far as I'm aware, and I think that's why it's such a different film, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it had a more of a like Wayne
you know,
Manor, for example, looks very different,
yes,
and because it was a model, it wasn't a real house this time, and
yeah,
a lot of things like when Batman looks down at the city, it's like, wow, I mean that's a really far way down, and
yes,
yeah, so
yeah,
everything looks like it was shot on a soundstage in that movie. So I think that's why it looks really different compared to the way the first one looked.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just think it's I hate to see like anybody. I hate to see a lot of money being wasted, and I think it was awful for the fans as well. Not being able to go to Pinewood and see how brilliant. Because until you got there and saw it with your own eyes, you realised how phenomenal that set was. It is most know, extravagant, grand set since Cleopatra and sort of Ben Hur, those kind of films. But I just think it was so tragic that that all got ruined and wasted, um, and that it couldn't come back because I'm sure that they could have made it work, you know, as well. But then you realise they had their reasons, and that's what happened. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, you know what? But you know what? At the end of the day, Batman '89. You know what? The sequels that followed, they were all fun. They were all great in their own way. But they still, you can't compare them to Batman '89. Batman '89 is just a incredible, straight out of the comics movie. It was just beautiful the way it looked. Everything was just amazing. And Batman
yes,
Returns, everything looked really great too. But
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
at the same time, it really didn't feel like the first one because I felt like
no.
I did feel like Returns had a lot more drama than it had comedy. And
and it was more, it was definitely Michelle and Danny's film, wasn't it? More so.
yeah, but
That's how
luckily
I
we had Danny as
took
the
that one.
Penguin because he's very funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was certainly quite dark, wasn't it? And
Mhm.
I know there was all this sort of controversy, wasn't there, with the children and the way
Yes,
that
yes,
the toys merchandise
and
went.
McDonald's and everything.
Yeah, it was very, very different. But it is different, which it needed to be, perhaps in some ways. I don't know, but I agree. I think there's something about the originals, isn't there, with films and
I get,
especially 89.
yeah, I know that the Batman was Tim Burton's very first big budget film, and he had to make it work really well. So I think it was really important for him to make it very comic book accurate. And
Yes,
then in the second movie, I know that he really wasn't all that. I know that I don't want to speak for him, but I think he said in an interview that he was kind of interested in moving on at that point. He's very proud of the first movie, and like
yes,
like he doesn't like want to like jeopardize a success. But then they had agreed to give him full control, and they said just make it a Tim Burton film, and
yeah,
um, and I think that appealed to him to finally do his own take on Batman and what it would look like if he could have been the creator or something. So
yes,
that's what makes Batman Returns very special is the fact that, like I kind of like when I watch it, I get like a little bit of feelings of like some Nightmare Before Christmas vibes or Edward Scissorhand vibes. You know what I mean? Like it
yes.
has like the tone of Tim Burton films in it.
Yes, yeah, it does. You're right. I mean, it's definitely very different, and it will be very different also when you've got a totally different, production designer there, in Bo Welch, who's got his own style, as we know from all those other great Tim Burton movies. I just personally um, like the Anton First style, is more my thing, but each to their own.
Hmm.
We always accept different opinions, but to go from Full Metal Jacket to Batman '89 and those kind of films that he worked on, it just shows the breadth of his skill. Where I think Bo tends to stay very much in that same area, which is his speciality anyway. So he's totally different. But there's just
Yeah,
something about '89 which will always have that appeal, and it's nice. I know when I saw the double feature with the Flash when Michael came and did a Q&A as well in London some time back, but the younger audience were still really taking to the '89, and that was lovely because you can't not be impressed by it, and I think they're all loving Jack as well. Of course, he was so
hmm,
brilliant, but Michael as well. But it is something that will be there forevermore. And I know Michael
absolutely.
it's
Did
been
you went
so.
to the Flash
Yeah.
promotions?
Well, I went to. They didn't have the sort of the full ending, if you like, then because of the spoilers at that time. But I was fortunate to go with some friends in Leicester Square in London, and we saw the '89 first, and then in the intermission, Michael came and did a bit of a Q&A, and then they put the Flash on. But it was just very, very interesting to see, and as we know, Michael was brilliant in the Flash. He was the best thing in that movie, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
And
Yes, absolutely.
he just has that presence and that ability with, he's just got all that thought behind the eyes, which we love. But it was a good movie, but it was just, I think, very, very different, and I couldn't fall in quite with all the CGI going on.
Yeah, they definitely
In it.
CGI'd him a lot
There's
in a couple of shots.
a lot of that, yeah, going on, and it tends to, certainly for me anyway, I do tend to switch off. I can only sort of watch so much of that before it just gets, tedious. So it was good to see anyway. But Michael was certainly the best
Oh,
thing
he
in that.
was, hands down, and George Clooney's cameo at the end, I mean, I thought that was hilarious, I thought that was wonderful, I really
That
enjoyed
was
that.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? Good fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, yeah, and I'm happy that they brought Ben Affleck back and they gave him a spot. I heard that they actually did ask Christian Bale to come back, but
Yeah.
I don't think he was interested.
No,
Um,
I think sometimes, it's not for everybody, is it? And you have to accept that it's nothing personal, but
I think he's
you
just really
know,
proud of his
you,
movies and he wants to leave them alone.
yeah, yeah, and you can accept that. Can understand that, and you admire him for that decision, and just move on.
I really wish they had brought in Burt Ward back as Dick Grayson to see what happened to his version of Dick Grayson. How is he fighting crime now? Obviously, unfortunately, Adam West had passed away by the time Flash came out.
Yes.
But Burt visiting his universe and seeing his Burt Ward, because he had a cameo in that Crisis in Infinite Earths event that Robert Wall did. And yeah, it's all in one video. I'll send it to you. It's on YouTube. It's really fun. Um,
Yeah,
but
that'd be great.
yeah, I really would love to see what Burt Ward's Dick Grayson's Gotham City looks like today. Now that he's an older man, is he training Bruce Wayne's children now to be the new crime fighters at Gotham City? Like what is the like whatever became of that universe? I hope we get to see that someday. I hope somebody has that idea. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that
Yeah.
I love it when they play with the multiverse. I love it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the one of the sad things about Michael Keaton coming back was the fact that he actually did get to play Batman again in Batgirl, a
Yeah, that's
Batgirl
right.
movie.
Yeah.
But
Well, they used
unfortunately,
some of my bell tower stuff for research as well. I was intrigued to see some of the posts where as one of my bell tower
oh yeah, they were
poses,
on the
from the
bells.
sequence. Yeah, so they're using that for some research. So I was very proud of that. But yeah, I think everybody deserves to see Batgirl because Michael looked fantastic, and I think it was very very good. Again, I think it's a crime not to let these things happen, and to waste all that money, and especially when something is so good as well, because I'm sure it would have been a very good movie.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser. I know he was on Howard Stern, talked about it a little bit. He said that the script was great, and some people, I know some pages got leaked on the internet, and some people were a bit they criticized some of the lines in the dialogue, but not all the lines and dialogue end up in the final cut. Eventually, as soon as they test screen it and they watch it, they say like, okay, maybe this line doesn't work as well as we thought. We'll take it out. It's got to go through editing. It's got to be screen tested and everything like that. And I heard there was only one cut. The first cut of the film was the only thing that was seen. And right away, I don't know if it was. I don't really know the behind the scenes story of what happened. I think it was a tax situation. That's the only thing I
Very
can.
likely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only thing I can assume that it was. But it looked amazing in the behind the scene footage. I love the way Batgirl looked. I like that it was like it looked like a homemade bat suit because she's obviously not connected to Bruce Wayne in any way. She has no idea that Bruce Wayne's Batman. She's obviously Commissioner Gordon's daughter, and she's out there playing Batgirl for what reason? I really was looking forward to finding out what her reasons for becoming Batgirl was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. No, yeah.
Brendan Fraser playing
Right.
Firefly, that would have been a fantastic film. I really still hope we get to see
Yeah.
it someday. Miracles can
Oh,
happen.
yeah, they can. I mean, it's possible. We live in hopes. Don't we? Like my deleted scene, but
Mhm.
let's really just hope and pray that it does come out. But certainly Michael, he's a phenomenal actor, and he's gone on to do so many other great roles as well, hasn't he? And
Mhm.
he's looking great. He takes care of himself.
Sure does.
I admire that. I mean, I
So do
I
you.
live by that. Yeah, no, thank you. I live by that. I mean, I look after myself. I eat well. I exercise, and I think a lot of it's internal as well. As I say, I love life. I love to get out and enjoy the great outdoors, and I'm not someone who has to have all the possessions and the materialism. I mean, it's nice to have a few things here and there, but to me, it's just nice to experience things. As I say, I'm very much into history and architecture and design and a whole, raft of things. I just love it all because I think it's all part and parcel of how wonderful the world is, and I think it's a shame if you can't enjoy it,
Yeah,
and we'll never be able to see everything, and it's not any competition to do that, but to just, like Johnny Karzai, a guy I greatly admire. He gets out there and he has these wonderful experiences, and I applaud him for that. To live it, if you can do it,
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
just go for it because the world's your oyster, isn't it? In that way, and
Hmm.
whatever you do, just enjoy it and help others and you know spread the love as I always believe in as well. Just helping each other. We all need each other to get on, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, how about what was your favorite piece of Batman merchandising for the movie? Like, Batman's actually, the '89 film and Batman Returns have resurfaced in the merchandising world. They've been reproducing a lot of these classic figures from the '90s, and they just did the Batman Forever toy line again. And of course, I have this cool Joker van right here from when Batman came out originally. I got lucky and found this in a
Yeah.
collectible shop.
Oh, that it's all fantastic, isn't it? I mean, I've been happy, and I've been very fortunate that people have bought me one or two things, which is really, really lovely. So I've managed to get, you know, the small scale replicas of the cowl, and yeah,
You
and
got
then
this
I
one?
got, yeah. Well, I've never really actually bought anything per se, but then I've been given these things, and then I had my own face sculpt created, which I was hoping to market, but it's a little bit difficult to
Copyright and stuff
find.
like that.
Yeah, maybe, and these kind of things. But I just admire, you know, these amazing collectors that are there, and I've got one or two things myself. Um, as I say, I'm very, very fortunate that fans and lovely people have bought me these things. But I truly do admire and support and applaud people, these incredible collections. But I'm loving, getting some of my pictures done and into these artworks, and it's not like I've got a problem with as Joan Collins said, the ego has landed, not the eagle, but it's not that at all. It's just that I love that whole thing, because it's just a character we love so much, isn't it? Batman. I mean, who
Yep.
wouldn't want to be Batman? And if artists, and you have been Batman yourself, then why wouldn't you want a few adornments on your wall? But no, I'm not someone that collects masses of things, but I do applaud it, and I love
Absolutely.
seeing some of these vintage collections and these great buys that people get.
Yeah, this one's
You
really
know,
cool. This is from the 85th anniversary of Batman. I got lucky and found this in a Kohl's shop.
wow, that's brilliant.
Oh yeah, see
And
the
it's
85th.
it's just, and the thing is that, some of these things, not being funny, but some of these things have been based on me, because when I did the Bat Force radio interview, I know they were saying one of the Batman looked more like me, and then I've seen elements where the poses and even maybe the facial features, lend
Yeah,
themselves a bit to
that's a
me from the Herb Rich shots and those kind of things. So I can take a bit of a pat on the back for that.
absolutely, yeah.
So it would be lovely if I could have had some royalties who wouldn't have said no to that. But no, I think I can take, as I say, a pat on the back when these things have been modelled a bit, on me, or have been influenced uh, by me, and especially when you hear from a lot of the fans that will get in touch and say, oh, this or that or the other. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a dream come true because, as I say, I loved all that thing anyway. With those kind of people, the superheroes. I mean, I loved Christopher Reeve, one
Mm.
of my favourites. He's the ultimate for me.
Oh, Superman, absolutely.
And yeah, Superman, and you know, I think I was lucky. I was blessed with good bone structure, and it sort of helped me with my modelling and fitting out the cowl, and regardless of what anyone says, I think you see it in the comics a lot with the square jaw and all those kind of things, and I was very lucky that I got very much that, which helped me fit the suit and the cowl well, because of all my sport and things anyway. Because whilst it was all based on Michael, you know, you still got to look right in it. It's not just being the same shape, which we weren't really through and through, but it was um,
But you
the
tricked
fact
people.
that,
People obviously thought
well,
that it
it's,
was Michael
it's
when it was
not.
really you.
Yeah, I think the thing is you try to enhance it more. You usually stunt people and people, on the dance side are more muscular, and you've got um, those kind of things where you with how to sort of hold your frame, and how I was very much brought up on that by my late parents. Standing upright with your shoulders back, and not sort of standing deformed, but you know what I mean, where you looked smart, you looked elegant, not sloppy or anything like that. So all those kind of things have carried on through, where even now I it's
Yeah.
it's it's hard work,
Oh,
being
I'm sure.
fit
Yeah,
and taking care of self, but then it all pays off because you get more out of life and things anyway, ultimately. So
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that those have fulfilled my dreams a little bit, because who wouldn't want to play a superhero and
Yeah,
appear in things, or have the photographs taken as well, because they're things you can cherish. And as I say, there's been huge disappointments, but then that man can just how things pan out. And people have said to me, why didn't they get you to do the advising on some, like Forever or whatever else? And I said, well, I just don't understand, why it didn't happen. But you just let it go. It's one of those things. And if someone was said, well, look, if you get the 89 and do nothing else, well, then I would have taken that, because that's the ultimate for me. But I would have loved to have done more. But I went off in different directions, and I loved what I was doing. I got to play with some bands and do some other great things, other great projects. So you know, you can't be hard on yourself and beat yourself up over these things, because it's just not the way to go. You just,
Yeah, of course not. Of
like
course
I
not.
have been. Yeah, I just feel blessed anyway, and I feel blessed in another part of my life, a huge chunk of my life, which is the fact I appreciate so much out of that showbiz world as well. As much as I love it, I mean, I love to be grounded, and I love to be, as I say, amongst history, amongst nature. So you know,
Absolutely.
you take those things with you. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions for Carl or wants to say hi to him at least, yeah, please feel free to send in something. Obviously it's getting a little late. We want to make sure that he can. We don't keep him for very long, but if anybody wants to say hi to him or ask him a question, I mean, we got Batman here. I mean, come on, you can't pass up this opportunity. But yeah, you know what? One thing I will say about merchandising though is the fact that what's great about this is that the mask can't come off, so we don't know if it's Michael or you or anybody. So you can say it's you. I mean, like no, unless the mask can
Well,
come off and it's not a scale of Michael's face underneath, then I think we can consider it you. Absolutely.
well,
Yeah.
you know, you know, it's lovely. It's just fun. I mean,
Yeah,
who
this
wouldn't
one.
mind having a doll? Who wouldn't mind having a doll created? So I know when Cole Watkins, wonderful guy that's done so much artwork for me, I know when he sent me the Hot Toys Batman figure with my sculpt on it. I mean, who wouldn't be enamored and over the moon with that? I mean, it's, you know, as much as I loved my Action Man when I was a young boy, and you can't not be, as I say, blown away by that. And it sits on my chest of drawers there with some of my other merchandise and things that people have sent me. So I do love it. I do love to have me as Batman in doll form as well as figure form.
Yeah, that's really. Yeah, I know. I understand completely. Yeah, this is a really cool statue that my friend Amy got me. He's holding a Joker card right there.
Brilliant.
And yeah, this is
Excellent.
she found this in the shop that she works in, and I just think it's beautiful, and I just was so grateful when she got it for me. So Amy, if you're watching, thank you for this.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I love that figure. But
Oh, can I
let's
do a little shout out if
yes,
he's watching it or remembered? But there's a guy who goes under Bones and Bats, Roman Daniels, and he said for me to give his son Ezra a mention. So hi Ezra, and I hope everything is good with you, and a big hi from Batman from Ballybat.
that's very nice. Yeah, I'll have to try to find that message in the video, and I'll put it in the description where he can find it. So
Oh, thank you,
yeah, yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, this is let's talk about obviously your big scene in the movie, and after that, I'll let you go because I'm sure you got some sleep you want to catch. So, uh, how about
Thank you.
the famous cathedral fight scene when you're fighting in
Yeah.
the? Yes.
Well, I didn't do. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the fight per se. I mean, but I did the, as we know, that iconic cape turn. But I mean, there was a lot of me. I think again, what I feel very proud of is the fluidity throughout that scene, because I know wonderful Justin Esquivel put a great thing on today with National Superhero Day with three Batmans in the cathedral, and you know, you got me doing all that fluid movement, and then you've got Michael with his wonderful eyes and
Hmm.
his intensity, and then Dave Lee doing the fighting. But yeah, it's just that was very much my forte, and Tim allowed me to do, you know, a number of elements throughout that scene, as I say, from the Batwing crash and then getting up through the trap door. But it was just that, as I say, I really believed in what I was doing, and that there was the people that, and I had to pursue Vicky, of course, and be aware of the goons and the Joker, but it was just having that opportunity to really work with the cape, and that was very much my thing, where I could swish it, I could move it, and it didn't feel as though it was any restriction to me throughout that bell tower scene, and I loved it when Lawrence launches himself at me and then falls through the floorboards, and then I do the turn back. But it was just, and I love it when people are so, you know, appreciative and complimentary about my fluidity, because
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not just saying it, because I wasn't in it, but I think Returns did lack an awful lot of that throughout the movie. I mean, there's things I'm not critiquing in a horrible way, but um, you're gonna do that as a dancer, or as a performer or an actor, or whatever. You're not gonna do it to be nasty or anything like that. But I know that it did lack an awful lot of that. I mean, I know they did things differently, but things like when you come down on a zip wire and things, and pointing your toes, and keeping that aesthetics, and the things that you can't do. I mean, this is the beauty of a dancer, and I mean, you can have an actor, you can have a stunt guy, you can have a martial arts guy, but they'll never be the same as a dancer, and that's why dancers have been so brilliant, and they've been used in Aliens, and they've been used in RoboCop. If we look at the background on a lot of these things, there's ballet that's come into that, and it's an art form in itself. It really is, and I've been around a lot of actors, and actors are encouraged to do more yoga and to do more dance, and the ones like probably Michelle Pfeiffer, or the ones that have done dance, it really helps their deportment, their movement, everything, and so that's the reality. You can get these other people in, but it did miss, I think, that fluidity, which I was fortunate to be brought in to bring that to the '89 film, and
And he did
so
it beautifully.
well, thank you, John. It's very kind. I mean, it's just, as I say, it's the things that you dream of doing, um, and then I was, very, very happy when, I got. I don't know whether everybody knows this, but I got a film pretty much straight after '89, which was the King Ralph movie with John Goodman, and a stellar cast in that. You got Peter O'Toole and John Hurt,
Mhm.
Jolie Richardson. I worked with all those people, but you know, I got hired on that on the back of Batman '89, and that was by the first assistant director, Derek Cracknell, sadly no longer with us. But I mean, he just came up to me and said, "Look, I've got this for you," and I was on that for a week or so, and got another dancing friend in. But it's how it goes. I needed to get more of that potentially, but I was certainly going up for things like Judge Dredd and Eyes Wide Shut, and it's very competitive, as you know, and
Mhm.
it's no detriment to your abilities. It can be a simple thing that your hair's the wrong color, or you're not tall enough, or your eyes are not the right color. But again, you have to pat yourself on the back and say, well, at least I got called to go and meet Danny Cannon, who
Yeah, of
directed Judge
course.
Dredd,
Yeah.
or I got to be up for Stanley Kubrick's, Eyes Wide Shut, and all these things. So it's just the way the cookie crumbles. If it goes your way, then all well and good, and but take it as being a great thing that you have that opportunity. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's great. That's yeah, that's wonderful. But yeah, the back to the cathedral fight. The When you're fighting the last the last Joker thug that Batman's fighting in that scene, there is a scene where, of course, Batman does roll across the ground. That is you, right? That does the rolling.
No, no, that's not me. I think that's Dave Lee. I mean, there was four Batman in there, as you know. There was, and we must give a lot of credit to Sean McCabe as well. I mean, a
Yeah.
wonderful man who sadly passed way too soon. But Sean did some incredible things. Crashing into the bell and different things like that. But no, these were things that I could have done. I mean, I can do forward rolls and all those kind of things. It's just at the time, as I say, it's rationed out where you'll do that, and then you know Sean had his stunt license. I mean, certainly the Axis Chemical was stunt territory, really. But there are
Was that
these
Sean that did
politics.
that part?
Sorry, which part? No,
The
no. I mean,
acid
Sean did.
chemicals.
Well, I did the rooftop one. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
That was very much stunt territory because that was lethal. If I'd have fallen, I'd have been dead. If I'd have fallen off that roof, I would have been dead because there was no safety measures, or I'd been paralysed or whatever. But the thing is that it's just as I say, the way things are portioned out with and you've got the stunt coordinator Eddie Stacy, and you've got these things where they're saying, well, look, that's got to be, so you don't take it personally. I mean, as I say, I was happy that the fluid movement was always going to be my speciality, and then the rough and tumble was very much Sean really from the off, crashing into things, and he did that wonderful skylight scene that we so love. And then Dave was very much the fighting, with some
Mm.
added bits as well. But it's just I think it was how it worked out, and it worked out for the best because they got the mix of skill sets that blended so beautifully, along with Michael's, cerebral, iconic acting, and so you've got the best of everything really there. So again, I know I could have done even more, perhaps in Axis Chemicals, the earlier shots, but again, I don't feel sort of hard done by, or anything like that, because what I got was beautiful stuff. The bat signal sequence. I mean, that will live with me forever.
Of
Even
course.
though
Yeah.
people think it's a dummy, or whatever it might be.
It looked like a
It's
statue. Yeah, I thought that was funny.
yeah,
They made it look like
it's
a
just
statue.
the thing is, we never really had the use of the cameras back then, the phones and things like that. So whilst there are, things popping up from time to time, I just think, I wish I could have had somebody take that, to just prove that I was there doing it, but as I say, it wasn't that era then. You just got on with it, and we're happy, more than happy to have got that. But nowadays, people are getting all kinds of selfies and shots with whoever, just to prove. But no, I feel very fulfilled and happy that what I did was memorable, and to be part of the ultimate Batman movie, really. As we know, we don't cut people down that want to stay with Christian or Ben or whatever, but we love the combination of what Tim did and everybody else, and that's what I go on. Is it was the original.
Yeah,
And so, like
absolutely.
with the costume, I mean, I still love the '89 costume the most, but I do
That seems to be
love,
everybody's favorite.
yeah, I mean, I do love the return suit as well. I think it's such a beautiful design in the way it's kind of, moved on, let's say, in the aesthetics of it with all of that. But there's just something very organic and earthy and gritty about the '89, and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where I go. But
Absolutely, yeah.
everybody's different. But I think that's the one I ideally love, and I just think Bob was such a genius as well in what he did with everybody, and especially Jack's costume as well.
Yeah.
He never
Bob,
really
is that Bob
Bob
Kane?
Ringwood, yeah.
Oh, Bob
No,
Ringwood, I'm
Bob
sorry.
Ringwood,
Bob
yeah. I
Ringwood,
don't
yeah.
think Bob really got enough credit really for what he did and how brilliant he is. And
Yeah, his
so it
costume,
was an
everything was
incredible
amazing what
team.
he did. He really created something special that we all remember forever. So shout out to him for all of his contributions. He really is a very talented person. And
Yeah,
also shout out,
absolutely.
and of course to Sean for his contributions. He was obviously a wonderful guy because his wonderful stuntman because his scenes are absolutely memorable. And to
Yeah.
find out from you all the great shots that he did, it's yeah really nice of you to make sure that he gets full credit for everything that he did. And
Well, Sean and I spent a lot of time together. I spent. Dave was on '89, not very long really per se. I mean, he was an extra to begin with, so he was very much promoted. And how wonderful for him.
mhm,
God rest his soul as well. But um, Sean and I were together a long time. I mean, I was there 11 weeks, and Sean was there, right from the off. But Sean and I had a lot more interaction together, and it was always great with me. He was always very supportive, and there was never any kind of ego or sort of you know him feeling hard done to, because I did this or that or whatever. He just took it on the chin, and I'm really sad that he wasn't around longer, and but I know he'd got a great body of work previously. So I mean, I sent my love to his family, and wish I could have worked with him again and seen him again. But certainly the time I had with him, I'll always cherish. Because I think he was absolutely brilliant.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's Michael may have been in the spotlight and delivered the dialogue, but you guys are all just as much Batman as he is because you
Oh,
helped bring
thank
that
you.
character. Yeah, you helped bring that character to life. And comic book characters obviously there's a lot to them, and you know what? It's very hard to find a guy that has all those talents and skills to do what a comic book character can do. So that all your contributions to Batman, Michael being a brilliant actor, you being an incredible, obviously very good with movement and fluid dance, moves and everything, and Sean with his incredible fighting skills, and Dave was it? I'm sorry, is it Dave or
Yeah,
Dan?
Dave. Yeah, Dave
Dave,
was the
yes.
one with the fighting. Yeah, and Sean very much that who not only the rough and tumble, but just great skill to come through the skylight and zip wire through, and the stuff he did.
Oh, that was Sean that
He
did the
had it.
skylight scene?
That was Sean that did that. Yeah, Sean did that. Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, I think that was all done before I got there. Because it's never shot in sequence. The films are not, but it just, you just look at those things, and there's so many standout moments where everybody's, bringing it all together, and that's why there'll never be another one like it, because we were all given that opportunity, because poor Michael had to fight, and and then there's no need for him to necessarily do everything. But I know he did, he really did as much as he could and tried, and sometimes the sort of the suit and
Yeah, of course.
those schedules get the better of you, and you want to put your energy in the other things, the acting scenes and the Bruce Wayne scenes and everything else. So, it was a perfect opportunity for others to come on board and show the world what they could do, and like you say, give the Batman character, you know, all these dimensions, which he does have. He has all these abilities, and I think, as I say, you can. Sometimes there's the overuse of bulking up and doing the gym all the time, which, all right, for the Ben Affleck type things, it's all good as well, the brute force thing. But I'm one who just loves the elegance and athletic side as well. And, like Dracula and the Phantom and all these wonderful things. I think if you can bring in, and if we look at how a bat is in life anyway, a bat is a really beautiful mammal. It's a beautiful creature, and when you see
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
maneuvering, yeah, and doing all that, so that to me is how a bat man should be. He should have that fluidity as well. I think it's all part of making him even more special, and you can only get
Absolutely.
that really from a dancer. I think personally.
Absolutely. Well, I will ask you just three more questions if that's okay, and then after that, I'll let
Sure.
you I'll
And
let
then
you go.
I better get some shut eye because
Yeah.
I'm off somewhere tomorrow.
Okay. How about the Batman premiere? Did you get to go to that?
I didn't get to go to that, and I was telling Rachel, my partner, that oh no, I think it was somebody else. Sorry, that I couldn't quite no, I was telling her I couldn't understand why I didn't maybe get an invitation because we went to the cast and crew screening in Leicester Square in London. So
Hmm.
it's great to pole up there with all the guys and girls from the filming at Pinewood, and that was fabulous. But again, you see, it was so bizarre that I'd had all that involvement with all the photographs and everything, and then there just didn't seem to be anything from that. You thought maybe there would have been a call, "Oh, come to America or do this or do that." I mean, I remember going out one evening with my crew jacket on and everybody sort of flocking in this restaurant. Oh, wow, well, that's amazing. And then once I told them, they were just like, blown away by it all. But no, I didn't get to that premiere. I mean, it looks incredible.
It looked like it was amazing, an amazing party. You don't see premieres like that often anymore. I really wish that they still had premieres like that. I would try to fly out there and go to one if I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think there's things that you just can't understand in life where, film studios can throw hundreds of thousands of pounds away and
Hmm.
then they can't, do a simple thing like bringing someone out, if it had been me or Sean or whoever. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but you just like to think that they could use some key players in there that really brought the Batman character to a new level, if you like. But these are things that we never quite understand, aren't they? It just don't make sense.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely does. How about the other question I had for you was what did you think of obviously what happened with the third movie and the fourth movie with Joel Schumacher taking over? And obviously there was a lot of controversy with the second one. I don't know if there really was with the first one, but I know the second one did have quite a bit of controversy, and they were obviously advertising it toward kids, and but what's unbelievable is the fact that The way I would have handled that as a parent of that time was that obviously Batman is a children's character, very popular with the kids. And if they had the merchandising, I would have just put my kids in front of the TV and showed them the Adam West movie. You know what I mean? So they can have fun with that. Obviously, the movie's rated PG-13. They're not really old enough. I mean, you can take your kid to go
Is
see it.
this on? Yeah. Is
Yeah,
this on returns? Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
for returns. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I can personally understand it. I mean, I personally don't like the black sort of bile coming out of Danny DeVito's mouth. I mean, I just think sometimes, but then you think, well, it's the sewer, it's the character. I I I just personally didn't like it too much, and I can understand from the children's point of view, that it was, when he bit the nose and these kind of things. They are quite brutal, horrific things, and I know, maybe other people are thinking I'm being too, I don't know, soft on it, but personally, I can see the reasoning behind all that. That it wasn't geared so well. We know that there's things that went off in '89. It just didn't seem to have quite that psychological effect somehow. I don't know. Just witnessing it, and I think just because it was more studio bound, whether that kind of read into it a bit more. Whereas, '89 there was much more expansion with the sets, and the characters were sort of more that, certainly the Joker larger than life in that way. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but
yeah.
I enjoyed watching the as I say, the icons on Earth, and whilst things were left out of that, and skimmed over, or whatever else, it's geared in a way to benefit, the heads of whatever. I could still see and understand what they were talking about, with the children.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah. How about did you enjoy Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
I mean, again, Val, terrific actor, as we know, and so sad that he's gone, and how
Yeah.
he tragically went as well. It was very, very sad. I think he, is terrific in what
Oh,
he
he's
did. I mean, you know, just totally different. And then, you could argue with George that, wasn't the right script, because I mean, he's certainly a great actor himself. You know,
yeah.
so yeah,
My with
they're just different, aren't they?
yes, of course, absolutely. Yeah, with Val, I thought Val's performance was amazing. Of course, Tim Burton making another Batman film would have been amazing. But you know what? At the same time, when I think back on it, like if somebody asked me, like, if you can erase Batman Forever from the whole Batman universe and to get the Tim Burton third film, would I do it? And honestly, I would say no. I actually really enjoyed Batman Forever. I thought it was really fun, and Val's performance was amazing. And Jim Carrey
Yeah,
as the Riddler is very fun. Tommy Lee Jones, Nicole Kidman's gorgeous, and
yeah.
and Chris, we got Robin in the franchise, and I'm like, okay, the suits have nipples, but I don't care. That never bothered me. I never really thought about it until people started complaining about it on the internet. But yeah, no, I still had fun with those movies. But my final question for you, obviously, interviewing you as a guy who has portrayed Batman, I feel like the best way to end it would be to talk about the only man who never got his credit for those movies, which was Bill Finger.
Yes.
Yes, and obviously, I know Bob Kane was on the set of Batman quite a bit. Did you get to talk to him quite a bit?
I didn't know. I mean, it's like with Michael Uslan, you can't believe that it took me 35 years to see him, and I don't know whether you knew, I got to see him, fairly recently in London when he came over, and we got together for lunch, and had a really great chat together. He's a fantastic guy, he really is. But, it's this weird thing that you can be on a set and somebody can be completely at the different area, and you miss them. It's like I was fortunate to meet Prince, and
Mm.
felt blessed that he was in the soundstage where the Batwing was and where I was, where I did a lot of the insert shots. But um, I never saw Bob, on that set, and it's just again how the timing is. But I do feel, that Bill Finger, really did miss out
Yeah.
terribly on the credits and the rewards for, it reminds me of a lyricist, writing, an incredibly successful song and not getting the royalties. It's those things that have happened, and it's tragic, because he was instrumental, so much so. And I mean, I've been reading Michael's book, which he gave to me, the boy who loved Batman, and reading how Bill was so instrumental in what he'd done anyway in comics and characters previously, and how he got, it was really him for the Batman, and how he should look, how the wings should be, etc., etc. So it's so sad, isn't it?
It
That
is.
he
Yeah.
didn't get the monetary rewards that he so deserved, and but I think a lot of the fans know, and so many more people know from these exhibitions and things that have been going on. I was at the Batman Unmasked exhibition, which, whilst it didn't have much of the '89 uh, memorabilia and stuff, costumes and things, I still enjoyed going along to see it. But Bill was certainly getting, posthumous sort of, much more recognition again now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really happy that he is, and his granddaughter is here to be able to
Yes,
see those
Athena, yeah,
credits. Athena Finger,
definitely,
yes,
yeah.
and her
I've
son.
been in touch. Yeah, I've been in touch with Athena and said, myself, how, saddened I am by it all, but he's finally getting much more recognition now, which the family must really appreciate.
Yeah, I would love to meet Athena and hopefully give her a hug, just so I could just show my way of thanking her and her grandfather and her family's history with everything that he brought to my childhood. Because Batman, as you could see,
Yes,
big part of my
yes,
life growing
oh
up.
yeah.
Adam West going
Wow,
all the way back,
oh,
all over the
that's
place. I
an
got Batman on
impressive
the
wall
ceiling
there,
even.
Joe.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
Batman
amazing.
on the ceiling even right there.
Oh my word, look at that. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
all over the place. He was a big part of my life and still is to this day. And you were a big part of my life. And I
Oh,
couldn't be
thank you.
couldn't be any more grateful to all your contributions to the movie.
Oh,
And
thank you very much.
absolutely. And
I
if
mean,
anyone hasn't seen it, Batman and Bill, it's a documentary on Hulu. I think it's amazing. It's a beautiful tribute to Bill Finger. I think if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go watch it. And speaking of documentaries, you had a documentary that was made. Would you like to talk about that before we?
yeah, I'll just sign off with this one. Yeah, and then I really must get my head down.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
no, I was very fortunate that you know Alexander Eberhagi got in touch, and he's a young film student, direct student in Chicago at DePaul, and we put this documentary called BalletBat together, and yeah, it was great fun actually. He put some inserts, other material of things I'd done as well, and I spoke about the scenes and all of that, and yeah, he submitted it to a lot of film festivals, so we're just waiting to hear back on that. But I mean, otherwise, we might see if we can get it screened somewhere, or put on as an extra, which would be fantastic. So yeah, we're waiting to see on that. But it was just lovely to be involved with with a young guy, who's up and coming, and he's sort of award winning as well.
Hmm.
And nice to gather some reviews from people that had worked on the movie as well, and or being fantastic fans and film critics,
Hmm.
etc. But yeah, I mean, I just loved doing that, and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm really happy for you that happened, and I'm sure it'll be a beautiful, a wonderful tribute to you. And I will definitely be watching when that if that ever gets resurfaced anywhere. You can depend on me to watch it.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that. It's
Ab-
lovely to talk to you and share these wonderful memories and
mhm.
our love for Batman
Absolutely, yeah. And it was a real
and the
treat for me.
franchise.
It was a real treat for me because I just interviewed Alan Robinson, who was Jim Carrey's double in Batman Forever as the Riddler, and now I'm interviewing you, Batman, and I might even get I might be able to schedule an interview with Patricia Peters on portraying Catwoman. So I've gotten Riddler,
Oh, wow.
Batman, and Catwoman, and I'm really grateful to all three of you.
Fantastic. Oh, that is just so good. I really hope that happens.
Oh, me too, me too. But Carl, I cannot thank you enough for making the time to do this, and we went so long, but it's been so fun to hear your stories, and I am so grateful that you've given the time to do this.
Oh, you're very welcome, Joe, and thank you ever so much as well, and take care, and we'll be interacting soon, no doubt.
Hopefully, you get on the con circuit around the United States. I know you do some signings in the UK, but hopefully, someone will cough up the money and bring you over here. I'm hoping it happens. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would love that. I really would love that. I mean, it'd just be great to meet fans and people over there, and maybe this is the start. Now I'm doing more things in the UK, which will hopefully lead to crossing the pond. So I live in hope something will happen anyway.
yeah, me too. Especially, I go to this drive-in called Mahoning, which is up in Lighton, Pennsylvania. Sometimes they bring celebrities out that are going to have signings in June. They're going to have a Batman weekend where they're going to show Adam West's movie, Batman '89, The Dark Knight,
Yes.
and Batman: Mask of the Phantasm with the '89 Batmobile being there.
Oh
So
wow. Oh,
if
that'd
they
be
can
fantastic.
if they can bring Patricia and Alan out for a signing, and you would be a real treat, obviously, because that'll be the first time we met in person.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, never say never, as they say. So,
Fingers crossed.
let's keep everything crossed anyway.
Yes. All right. Well, Carl, thank you very much, man. And you have a really great night. All right.
Thank you very much, Joe. You take care, won't you?
Take care.
All the best. Cheers.
Hopefully
Bye bye.
next, and hope to talk to you again soon. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care. Good
Cheers
night.
now. Cheers, Joe. Bye bye. Good night.
Bye bye. Good night.
Bye bye. Good night.